On November 2015, in João Pessoa, Brazil, an IGF conference took place to discuss issues facing the Internet. APC and LaborNet participated, and this is some of the commentary, statements, and debate that were taking place at this international conference.
J-Lo from Tactical Tech.
The naughty boys.
The naughty boys. So what's happening here at this conference here?
Well, this conference is very interesting because finally it's one of those spaces where civil society can engage with companies and governments and various institutions on matters about internet governance. But it gives also space to discuss topics that it's often a bit outside of normal agendas.
And do you think people are getting educated about the internet and effect on civil society or the people?
Well, I hope so. Then it's not just a show for people to go around and
have a nice time on the beach, the beautiful beach.
Exactly, and mingle and networking, which is also good. But I hope that people attend the good sessions and maybe they can also come and know more about digital security.
Okay, and what's the point about digital security?
Well, the point about digital security is, first of all, it's raise awareness and do a behavioral change campaign. It's not anymore the time of learning tools or of being very technical. Now, privacy is paramount. So we have to start from these basics. And people are actually, it's very accessible in terms of topic rather than scare tactics in terms of cryptography or encryption, and people really cannot get that one so easily.
Okay,
so
I'm Tarata from Japan. Today I'm going to not decided, but I'll take a video and talk with other people, and I will have a talk with talk about our global research about privacy and awareness. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing to say. It's Françoise Mkuku. I'm based in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And this is your first conference? Is this your first? Or you've been
no, it's actually my third. I was first in Lithuania, then Indonesia.
And what are the issues that you think are important that need to be addressed here? And are they being addressed?
The gender aspect of every single issues, because we believe that there's a gender analysis to do in digital economy, in policy, in practices, and etc. But because I'm working already on gender, I'm also interested in knowing more about the emerging issues, such as issues that are very important for us in the developing world, like zero rating and net neutrality. I'm also attending now a session on copyrights because I'm interested in open knowledge, open data, open content, all these things. So I'm also trying to broaden out my understanding of some new issues.
And what is the situation for women in use of internet in the Congo?
Well, we have the issues of access that is obvious and linked to so many other things, particular to our context, the fact that women are less educated than men, women have less opportunity, less access to technology, equipment, and all the things. But beyond that, we are also like the next frontier because everybody's coming with those free basics, and we think that the free basics will just trace the problem that women are already experiencing. Like there's less done on innovation when it's come to free basics. And the people who are not innovating, who are not included for the moment, who are excluded, it's women. So we think that those issues should be really read with a gender lens, particularly in our context.
And are women using the internet to organize solidarity and organize support for each other?
Yes, they're using it a lot with all the barriers I just said, you know. They're not educated, so they can't really fully use the potential of internet. But some of them, particularly young, educated, middle class, young women, are using internet at their full potential.
Thank you.
My name is Arnold from South Africa, from Community Education Computer Society. And then what I'm just saying is that instead of having these packages where people have like 100 megabits per second, 300 megabits per second, why don't we, if we want to make internet accessible, why don't we just go back to 512 kbs? So if we just want to give people a foot into the door, you know, as an on-ramp, why don't we just make the packages a bit smaller? I mean, obviously people won't be able to do video, but that could be a precursor to the adoption of the internet. Because once people access information and tools that will change their lives and that they see valuable, then there would be, you know, most probably some kind of an urge to explore more about the internet, so to speak.
And what about the zero business? What is this all about?
The zero rating business to me sounds a very dicey proposition. You know, it's very dicey. I mean, they proclaim it's an on-ramp to the internet, it enables smaller operators a foothold into the market. But, you know, why zero rate the service if you can have smaller packages and give more people access to the whole internet? Because the zero rating business, as I said, it's a whole garden. It's not the internet. But once you get people a foothold in that, they assume it's the internet. So invariably you ask the people, are you on the internet? No, we're not. Are you using Facebook? Yes, I'm using Facebook. So they don't associate Facebook with the internet. They think that Facebook is the internet, but it's not part of the internet, so to speak. So my sense is that this zero rating business it's a marketing tool, it's a commercial, a commercial venture. So we don't know how far this is going to take us.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Hello, I'm Gabriel. I'm an international relations student here at the state of Paraíba, Federal University, and I know the telecommunications companies, they give zero rating for services like Facebook and WhatsApp because in cities that never use the internet, countryside cities, so they addict these people who never use the internet in Facebook and WhatsApp. So from nothing, they take away the zero rating services, and the population addicted to internet begin to buy internet so expensive, and begin to use their money on this because they're addicted to services like Facebook and WhatsApp. And I think that's it.
So they actually addict people
Yeah.
to their service, and then they're locked in.
In fact, there are being created some clinics to, rehab clinics for people who are addicted in WhatsApp and Facebook and Skype and all of these services.
And what do you think about public Wi-Fi?
Public Wi-Fi? Well, the idea, pretty much of the idea is nice, but the way it's used is not nice because here in this very city we had some troubles about corruption in the Jampa Digital, as you may look in the web.
So they were taking money.
Yeah, they used a lot of money saying, no, it's for the public Wi-Fi, but it wasn't. It was for steal.
I'm Jeremy Malcolm. I work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
And what are the issues that you think are of great importance here at the IGF meeting?
Well, we want to make sure that the internet remains an open, free platform for everyone, that there aren't new barriers raised and it doesn't become too restrictive. And we want to make sure that decisions about the internet are made by the community. We don't want to see issues related to the internet pushed into closed-door negotiations by governments. So it's very important that the internet is for everyone and we all have a chance to have our say in how it's governed.
And the issue of the Trans-Pacific Partnership and its procedures as far as the rules as far as the internet were discussed here. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the best example of how we don't want to govern the internet because the Trans-Pacific Partnership is not only closed door, it's also unduly influenced by big corporations and the rules on internet-related issues are balanced out against completely unrelated rules on things like manufactured goods and agricultural goods, and it makes no sense to have these issues bundled together because the outcome is just a second-rate agreement for everyone.
And what was the response of Ambassador Painter to this, Chris Painter, to this issue that was brought up here?
So I didn't really feel he had a good response to that. He said that the TPP is in favour of advancing the free flow of information across the internet, but there's really only a very narrow provision in the TPP which does anything about that, and there are many other internet-related issues in there which simply don't belong in a trade agreement because they're not about trade, they're about raising barriers rather than lowering barriers.
The UN has passed a resolution to further reinforce protections for journalists, especially in conflicts. The OSCE and other either international or supranational organizations have put this issue on their agenda. Several NGOs, and Index on Censorship is one of them.
What is the situation in Turkey? You were there. What did you see in Turkey?
I noticed a crackdown on civil society and on the media, especially on independent media, but also on many media. Actually, everyone is targeted, prominent journalists, but also social media users. There are several attempts and several ways to attack them, using civil lawsuits or criminal defamation suits, physical attacks, arrest and detention, raids in news organizations. Yes, it's a mess.
And what are the roles social media websites or Facebook and these others in this? I mean, have they banned them in Turkey?
Well, the bans have been up, like, on and off. It depends. Twitter challenged the ban on its social media in Turkey by also providing information to its users during the ban on how they could counter the ban, and so counter this censorship attempt by the Turkish authorities. So I think that there is a pushback. However, in the past month, Twitter has also agreed to, for example, suspend or disable some Twitter accounts in Turkey, some that were from people who were expressing controversial themes and topics on the network. So that is a cause of concern.
And journalists are being targeted as terrorists now around the world. Is that true?
Or being targeted or being labeled?
They're being labeled as...
I would say that there is a use of terror laws to target journalists, which is slightly different, a slightly different way to put it, which is using terror laws by saying if a journalist reports on a story that is related to terrorism, then they can be accused of spreading terrorist propaganda, or they can be accused of condoning terrorism, which is, first of all, completely far from the reality, but which also threatens journalists in the first place by labeling them as terrorists, but also as sometimes detaining them, arresting them, imprisoning them, and that is a clear violation of the right of a free press and of freedom of expression. If you can't get information, that is why actually some journalists have been targeted, especially in conflict areas, and that is not only the case in Turkey, Syria, or in the Middle East. You have similar things happening in Ukraine, for example, in eastern Ukraine, when there is a conflict in the eastern part of the country, where journalists are being targeted because they provide information, and that information sometimes does not serve the interest of the parties in conflict. I think that is why journalists are targeted. And the way that we can support them is, first of all, by always condemning when journalists are being attacked and targeted. We need to really unite together by denouncing the use of terror laws, but also physical intimidation and legal harassment of journalists. We need to provide mechanisms that enable journalists worldwide, and especially local journalists, because quite often when foreign correspondents are involved, it makes it to the big headlines, but we don't speak as much as local journalists. In Syria, it's mainly local journalists who are being targeted and who have faced the the consequences of the conflict.
What happened? So what happened?
It was at the beginning of the main session when the Minister of Communication of Brazil was was beginning his presentation, and then these people just stand up and show the sort of banner. And then all the people was taking pictures, and then some of the security people of the UN came to them and tried to push him.
So they took them away.
They didn't say anything. It was a silence protest. And
the police.
But it was a silent protest. The UN police took them out of the.
I'm not sure about it.
You're not sure about
I'm not sure it was.
But you saw them put up a banner.
Yes.
So what the banner said?
There are some pictures. I can show you the pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was.
Good. So there is. It's about probably Facebook censoring in Brazil.
Because it's this program of internet.org, because as far as I know, this is just in part of Brazil who are implementing it, and now the government of Brazil are trying to expand the program around the country. It's a protest again, internet.org, as far as I know. There are some articles I can show you.
So they were protesting suppression of free speech. And this is what happened to them at UN conference on technology.
And they've been suppressed.
And they've been suppressed. What is the lesson of that?
I think that is the best thing to do. I mean, if you discuss and protest against something, you should do that. I mean, as actually a reaction. And then, you're nice. I think you get publicity out of this.